Well, against all the advice from friends of mine here in London, I'm going to go down to the Mall and take a look at what's going on in the aftermath of the sad death of Queen Elizabeth II. And then I'm going to go to St James's Palace, where King Charles III was just proclaimed as the new king.
Londoners have been laying flowers around Buckingham Palace as a sense of numbness and shock greets the news that somebody who was present throughout our lives is no longer there, Queen Elizabeth II. Not that we're all ardent royalists or obsessive monarchists, but the Queen was a constant, for good or ill, and her departure after 70 years on the throne leaves a vacuum. One tribute here left by a child, a drawing with felt-tip pens. All around Buckingham Palace, as preparations for the funeral were put in place, huge metal screens were erected and endless barricades around Green Park. This made it impossible to get a decent view that day of a familiar landmark in central London, what the late Queen called her office. So I left the area around Buckingham Palace to visit a much older royal palace that is still regarded officially as the seat of royal power in London, St James's Palace. A Tudor building in a very upmarket part of the city. And against its doors, the flowers.
This building behind me is where King Charles was proclaimed a couple of days ago, and yet some tourists I've been talking to around here have no idea what this building is, so let me tell you all about it.
St James's Palace was built by Henry VIII between the years 1531 and 1536 on the site of a hospital for lepers. It was outside the City of London, and some think it was intended to protect the health of his one male heir, the future Edward VI.
So this building is far older than Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace is a relative newcomer as a royal residence. It was originally a mansion owned by the Duke of Buckingham, but he was strong-armed into selling it to King George III, who housed Queen Charlotte there. When Queen Victoria ascended the throne in 1837, it became the main residence of the monarch. Before the Duke of Buckingham relinquished his mansion, the royals had other residences, including the beautiful Hampton Court Palace, which Henry VIII had seized from his disgraced chief advisor, Cardinal Wolsey. He also relieved Wolsey of what became Whitehall Palace, which Henry expanded into a vast palace of 1,500 rooms, rivaling the Vatican in size, and where kings and queens from Henry VIII to William and Mary ruled the kingdom, until it burned down in 1698.
With the burning down of Whitehall Palace, St James really came into its own.
It's in the first half of the 18th century that St James's Palace is the unrivaled centre of royal power. A German prince called George, the Elector of Hanover, was invited to become King of England in 1714 after the previous Queen, Anne, died childless. His son, George II, continued the development of St James's with sumptuous royal apartments. But George III couldn't stand the place, and it was used only for formal occasions like the King's levee, when ministers met him as he rose in the morning. Royal official business is still conducted from St James's, and it's from here that a new monarch is proclaimed. This proclamation in 1936 for George VI. Ambassadors to Britain are still said to be representing their country at the Court of St James, showing how it's still officially the monarch's main centre of operations. And as Charles was proclaimed King Charles III from St James's Palace, the world's media were busy, as I saw this weekend, broadcasting to audiences around the world, hungry for news of the funeral of Queen Elizabeth and the accession of King Charles.
So after what's been a sad week for Britain with the death of Queen Elizabeth II, from St James's Palace here in London, goodbye for now.